This is Luke Paulson, the Catholic Conservative, and welcome to the news of the week for August 24th, 2024. And if you enjoy these videos, do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. Fixing past mistakes. Remember this, my friends, you are only allowed to question the integrity of an election if you meet two criteria. 1, you are a Democrat accusing the other side of colluding with Russia. 2, it is concerning the 2016 election or any time that a Republican won. One of the problems that Republicans found in 2020 was that the irregularities that they found could not be prosecuted. Simply put, you cannot legally unseat a president without impeachment. The Georgia Election Board decided to take an approach that would ensure the sanctity of the election. Now, 3 separate poll watchers are needed to confirm each ballot by hand to look for irregularities. What might they look for? A signature that might be missing, someone who voted for a president rather than voting a straight ticket, bubbles that are filled in perfectly, or anything else that looks out of the ordinary. The only opposition that actually came from this rule was from Democrats. They said that it was dangerous no matter who you are trying to elect. 3 people on the board were Trump's pit bulls fighting for honesty. This comes right as absentee ballots start coming in. Will this change the results of the election, considering that the 2020 election was the most secure election in our nation's history?
Only Poppins would know.
However, let us talk about the policies of the candidates who do not want this integrity. Capping the price of insulin. Brandon claimed that the price of insulin was $400 a month. However, PolitiFact found this to be false. They did admit that Brandon capped it at $35 a month, but admitted that the price tag of $400 a month is patently false. They found on the low end that people would pay $452 a year on insulin, or $996 on the high end if they were uninsured. This means that if we use our math skills, insulin actually costs just under $38 a month. This means that Brandon is claiming to have dropped the price by 91.25%. But in reality, it only dropped by 7.08%, or less than $3. It is true that these companies charge more in America and the Western world as a whole. That is largely because Americans under capitalism have been so successful that they can afford more. The standard of living over here is something that most of the world could only dream of. My mom owns farmland for her cows. A friend from India said that the amount of land that she had would indicate that someone was a millionaire over there. That means that the cost to produce something as simple as livestock is much cheaper over here. As such, people are healthier because of the higher standard of living. Even if what Brandon said is true, this is a fine example of price controls. Speaking of which, there is no price gouging. Inflation is wreaking havoc on the economy. President Trump said that we need to tackle this by drilling to get the cost of energy down, and then to cut off the flow of illegals that are getting lots of free things without paying in. However, Cackling Kamala has decided that the best thing to do is to implement price controls. Even the Washington Post has called out Cackling Kamala on this plan. They said that if your opponent is calling you a communist, do not propose price controls. Price controls do not work for many reasons, most notably because it would require control of every aspect of the economy. Take a steak, for example. You would have to control the price of the land, which changes every day. You would have to control the price of the feed, which changes every season. You would have to control the price of the processing plant, which could change by the minute. Even if you could somehow control each of these factors, you would still have to force the restaurant at gunpoint to have one set price for a steak. And the price of the steak changes based on where you live. It is cheaper down here in Texas, but it might be more expensive in New York. The solution is not more government, but more freedom. Now let us move away from the policy of the Democratic Party and on to what happened at their convention. DNC's Surgeries. Planned Parenthood, best known for killing babies, set up 2 mobile clinics right next to the DNC. There they offered free infanticides for the women, and for the men they offered free vasectomies. Now I have a problem with both, but my problem with the second is philosophical, not moral. As such, these men can take this option as it is not harming anyone's life, liberty, or property. Now Snopes, the internet's most trustworthy source of fact-checking, pointed out that this is a mixture of truth and fan fiction. They say this because Planned Parenthood is not associated with the Democratic Party. Legally, they are unconnected, but in practice, they are. Now, since they were outside the official convention, they did not have the protections that everyone inside had. Those inside had very strict entry points and armed guards. A strict border is okay for these people, but not if it is stopping illegals from every country under the sun. Armed guards are okay for these people, but not for protecting children. Now let us talk a little bit about the crowds that support these people. A difference in crowd size. Democrats, at least according to them, are getting good crowds lately. I cannot rule out that a lot of them are being paid to be there with all of the money that was laundered through Act Blue. Now the political cartoonists are saying that his crowd size is dropping or non-existent. Who are you going to believe? The fake news that has been lying about him at every turn? Or your lying eyes that can see the rally itself? Whether they are actually getting bigger crowds these days, I cannot say for certain. I do know that the fake news has been filming Trump rallies before they started so that they look empty. I also know that when Brandon had a rally, there was a partition set up so that the crowds were more condensed and thus looked bigger. Now, while these crowd sizes may be real, the military service of Tampon Tim is lacking. Walz's military service. Back during the 2012 Republican debates, Congressman Ron Paul took all of his opponents to the cleaners. He said that unlike all of the others who wanted to send our boys to war, he was the only one who actually served in war. The mice that were on stage pointed out that they were not drafted, but Paul pointed out that they could have volunteered. I posted a poll on my channel asking which is a bigger insult to soldiers. 1, abandoning your fellow soldiers and refusing to go to war, or 2, checking your watch while flag-draped coffins pass by. Giving Brandon the benefit of the doubt that he does not deserve, he is human and makes mistakes. Even though if this was President Trump, every news outlet would have ran with it for days. Walz, however, had to fill out paperwork, and possibly get someone to pull strings to get him out of his responsibilities. That is why I think that the former is worse. And it looks like the majority of you who voted agreed. Naturally, stolen valor is a very serious crime. However, let us move on to another legal battle. Disney brought to court. The Walt Disney Company is an insult to Walt Disney. That is right. I said it. Jeffrey Piccolo's wife died of anaphylactic shock after eating at a restaurant on their property. At first, the argument that Disney had was that they did not have direct control over the restaurant. Then they came up with a more asinine argument. Because this man purchased a Disney Plus subscription, he waived all rights to sue them. Always read the fine print. Now the man is having his day in court, and I doubt that Disney will try using that defense again. They may even change the agreement. While this is a legal nightmare, things are infinitely worse in Europe. Illegals target women in Europe. Last week I told you about how these foreigners are rioting in Britain, and the police are arresting people who post about it on social media. Now we have even worse things. Roaming gangs of foreigners are targeting women and gang raping them. But tell me more about how someone posting something on Facebook is dangerous. Women across just about every country in Europe are on high alert, as rightly they should be. Maybe if you are letting someone into your country, it should be based on facts rather than emotions. These people come from societies that have values antithetical to the West as a whole. Such people are too dangerous to let in. Some of these rapists are not even getting a punishment fit for their crime. Some of these women are even being punished for defending themselves. However, how about something a bit lighter for the next story? The Olympics have to deal with imaginary racism. All Black Podium. I am not going to pretend to understand the ins and outs of modern Olympic events, let alone something like gymnastics. There was an athlete with a low level of melanin that was falsely disqualified. This resulted in the 3 athletes that got to the podium all having high melanin concentrations. How this is important, I do not know. Moving on. The fact that the gymnast with little melanin should not have been disqualified means that the historic shot of the 3 with high melanin is now null and void.
Oh, boo-hoo. Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
I want to live in a world where athletes are judged not based on their melanin, but by their skills. It is painful to watch these snowflakes make everything about skin shades. However, speaking of upsets from behind, let us talk about RFK Jr. Trump loses an enemy. Before I go any further, this is a developing story even as I am editing this. RFK's running mate has admitted that they are open to joining the Trump campaign. Some people have speculated that it is a very real possibility. Even RFK knows that cackling Kamala is infinitely worse than President Trump. However, one fact and one fact alone is crystal clear. Trump may be the only political hope of America, but the only hope of the world is in Christ Jesus. Is the Shroud of Turin confirmed? The Shroud of Turin is reportedly the burial cloth of Jesus. There has been a lot of discussion about this, and people have been arguing for and against its authenticity for centuries. One fact to consider, it is not a painting that was made in the Middle Ages, as the blood is thicker on parts where the body should be pushing against the cloth, such as the nose. Also, there is clearly a mark on the side, just as would be expected from the soldier's lance, and clearly what looks like both a crown of thorns and Roman scourging. The cloth was dated using carbon dating, a horribly unreliable dating method, by the way. The scientists dated the cloth back to the Middle Ages. This supposedly ruled out the shroud as the burial cloth of Jesus. Until today. Using X-ray, scientists dated the cloth based on how much it decomposed. The scientists tested the shroud, cloth from the time of Jesus, and cloth from the Middle Ages. And the Shroud of Turin matched the cloth from the time of Jesus perfectly. Cloth from the Middle Ages did not even come close. Of course, even if the shroud was not authentic, this would not disprove the good book. Our faith is in Christ Jesus, not relics. However, hopefully, this news will allow someone to see his face and come to him for salvation. Wait, before you go, as you can see on the end card of my videos if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a backup channel. The way things are going, this channel could be taken down tomorrow. Initially, I mirrored my content, but the Karens took it down over there as well. However, I have put up a bit of content over there, such as this Tuttle Twins compilation.
Does family eat your new rotary saw?
Come on, I'd like you to meet the one, the only, the dirty man himself, Micro!
Is he occupied?
Gabby!
Hi, Mikey!
And this in-depth look at the money that Tampon Tim wasted. Tampon Tim wasted a lot of money in Minnesota. No rational person has any idea why boys need tampon dispensers in their bathrooms. However, how much money did he actually waste?
Let's find out.
So head on over there for some exclusive content, and please subscribe there as well in case this channel gets taken down. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but that is just my opinion. And do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. But before you go, on the left I have last week's video, but you may also enjoy the video on the right. And welcome to the news of the week for